Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again, and I am here today to review Don't Make Waves. This is the next Sharon-oriented film that I was supposed to review, and wow. I don't know what this movie was. I don't know what it wanted to be. It was a movie. Like, I guess back then, it was good because they could make films like this where they're just experimenting and doing whatever they wanted. And, if it worked, it worked. And if it didn't, it didn't. And unfortunately with this movie, it's pretty weird, to say the least. It's pretty, I don't know, like, the experience watching the film versus the film itself, like, just everything about this movie was a disaster. It was totally, it was almost like a dream. Like, dreams, they're very, like, sudden and short, even though they'll last like 8 hours or even like 2 hours. Like, you could go to sleep and have a dream that's the same length even though you're only sleeping 2 hours instead of 8. That's what this movie is. It's like a total indescribable experience. And I did not like this experience. It reminded me a lot of this one time when I was a kid and I was riding I went to the 4-H, no, it wasn't I went to the state fair, I guess, which I don't really remember much about except for these couple little things that happened. But what happened was, we were supposed to ride some rides after my brother did a 4-H project, speech or whatever. He showed it off, I don't know. And we went up to this roller coaster, and it was a dragon. It was like this dragon roller coaster, and he said to get on it because it's not like a roller coaster. It's just going to take you around in a circle or something. So he totally lied. And then I got in. And I think he got in too. Or he might not have. I can't remember. And then it started. And it was like the most freaky, unpleasant, uncomfortable experience ever. And it was just like this fast-paced, like, I guess it went like upside down and it went all around, but it was very short. It only lasted like 3 minutes or 2 minutes. And, ever since then, I refused to ride roller coasters because of that one experience where I was just totally taken off guard and thrown into this, like, this weirdness, this fucking dragon roller coaster ride. That's what this movie was like. It starts off immediately. It's like, is this going to be a comedy? Is it going to be a drama? Is it going to be a romance? Is it going to be a thriller? I have no idea. I literally had no clue. The only hint that I had was the poster, where you just kind of see these nondescript color pictures of, like, not like color, but like monochrome, like different color pictures of people, and it says "Don't Make Waves," and it's like, okay, what does the title even mean? I mean, what does that even mean? Don't make waves. I guess you could kind of, in theory, you could say that a wave could be some sort of like a karmic thing where you push your hands down in the water and the water goes forward and makes a wave. Like, that's the only thing that I can think of, like, in terms of, like, what does that mean? Don't make waves. And it starts off, to be fair, with a pretty cool song by the Byrds, which, that's a very underrated 1960s band, in my opinion, and I think that they're better than the Beatles. And they did the theme song for this movie. It begins the movie, it closes the movie, just like "To Sir with Love, to Sir with Love, to Sir with Love." Say that over and over and over again, like in the movie. And then it starts, and you have this guy, Tony Curtis, and I gotta say, like, he is just the most, like, just average guy. Like, he is so average and weird at the same time. Like, he has this weird face that he makes, but then he's like average, because he's got this like average frame, average figure, and it's just so, like, his character's not very exciting, to say the least. And then there's this woman, and she's like a typical 1960s Italian woman with, like, really super overly tan skin, long brunette hair, sunglasses, and she's painting. And she's like, nyeh. And she picks up the painting and, like, tosses it off a cliff. And that's just one example of, like, the many, like, weird things that happen in this movie. Like, just these random unpleasant things that are just, it's like, are they supposed to be funny? Because they're kind of funny in, like, a pathetic way. Like, these weird little slapstick moments. And, I really didn't like the way that this movie opened, because it was like there was no introduction or anything. It was just the song, and then it's like this guy's on a cliff and this girl's on a cliff painting, and then she leaves and she, like, rage quits her cliffside painting. And then what happens is she bumps into his car, and she causes his car to, like, roll down this mountain, and he has to chase after his own car, and it eventually crashes and explodes. And then he meets up with the girl comes there, they interact, and then he goes back to her place, and you're thinking, oh, I've seen this movie before. The guy and the girl meet up, they go back to her place, and then, oh, they're now a couple or something. Like, it just, oh, God. This movie, it just started off so piss poor. Even though, like, the scenery is really good, the actors, they're good at acting. I'm not saying that they're bad actors at all. It's just the material is so stupid, and it's so just, I don't know, like, that there was nothing to it. There was no sort of substance to grasp onto. Like with her last movie, chronologically, even though I already reviewed it last year, Eye of the Devil, that spell, it had substance and a story, and it had this right off the bat. Immediately you have this story where the guy and this family has to go back to his childhood home to do who knows what, and his family's not coming with him. And that's a story. That's an actual story that goes on. And in this movie, it's like, oh, that just stuff happens, and then the people meet each other. And it's like, I really think the people who made this movie, they were on lots of drugs and alcohol, because that's the only way I could see writing a script like this and turning it in and saying, yeah, this is the movie I want to make. not to say that that's a bad thing, too. Like, not to say that it's bad to, have fun and, relax while you write a piece of fiction. But just, so then, like, and I'm describing the movie in detail because there's really nothing to say about this movie. Like, it's weird. It's pointless. It's random. It's kind of entertaining in like I don't know, like a weird way. Like, it reminds me a lot of Licorice Pizza if you took away all the dark stuff. Or if at least you made the dark stuff a lot lighter and you didn't really emphasize how dark it is. Licorice Pizza had the same problem where, the whole movie was this pointless, random, chaotic mess of things happening. Like, oh, now he's going to sell waterbeds, and oh, now he gets arrested for something that he didn't do, and then, oh, now he's going to do pinball machines. It just was so random, like this movie, and there was no point. But at least in Licorice Pizza, there was a point, and it was that, I guess he was growing up, and, I don't know. I don't know. And this main girl, I guess she's the main girl. She's really likable. Like, she seems like a really nice person, but she's really stereotypical in a way where I wonder if she's like that in person or if she's like playing this character that they wanted her to play. Like, I don't know. And as the movie goes on, it's just like a timeline of random shit. It's like, first this couple meets, and then something happens from that, and then something happens from that. They don't really connect very much except for the fact that they happen. So the girl that the girl from the beginning, he goes to her place, and then her boyfriend comes, and he's a lot more typical of a man. He's a lot more of a macho man, and pretty much every other man in this movie is more macho than the main character, and that's kind of a problem for me. I mean, I don't know if that's on purpose or what. Or maybe if they think that, like, he's gonna seem like he's macho even though he's not. Like, I don't know. Like, what was this movie? Like, what were they thinking? Like, what were they... I don't know. And then he goes to... And because of the crash, the car crashing, the main guy, he really wants them to pay. He wants the insurance to pay him. And then I guess they don't have insurance or something. I can't remember. It was so weird. It was so pointless and random. It's like, just these things are happening. I'm experiencing these things. And I want it to be done. I want this movie to be over as quickly as possible. Because it's it's not horrible though. Like, it's not a bad, painful movie like other movies, like, maybe, for example, Puppet Master, Axis Rising, or Children of the Corn, the remake. It's not like that. It's just bad in terms of everything that happens in the movie feels wasteful, because you have all these great actors, you have all these great sets, you have this music that's not too intrusive in the movie, and all of it's wasted. All of it is wasted on this weird script that I don't know who wrote it or why. And then he goes to the boyfriend's place of work, and he applies for a job, and he gets it, and he becomes like this pool salesman or something, and then there's this girl that works at the office, and it turns out that the boyfriend was actually married to her, or I guess he was married to both, so he was a bigamist. I can't remember. Honestly, I'm just at a loss for this movie. And then he finds out that this girl, he used to know her, I guess, and so they're kind of friends, and like, is this interesting to anyone? Like, is any of the things that I'm saying, or any of those things that would make you, like, interested when you watched a movie? Like, I really don't know what just happened this fucking movie. It was only an hour and 36 minutes or so, but it felt like 2 hours. 2.5 hours. Not in a terrible way, though. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world. And then, finally, we get to Sharon, which, I gotta admit, I was wondering, when is she going to be in this movie? Because all the stuff outside of, like, if she wasn't in this movie, there's no way I would have watched this movie right now. Like, there's no way that I would have voluntarily watched this movie out of nowhere today. You know, like, I know I made a boo-boo and I watched The Big Mouth. And then I watched Audrey Rose. You know, those were two movies that I can't take back. But this is a movie that I would never have watched voluntarily. It had to be because she was in this movie. So that's what made it even worse. I was wondering, where is she? Like, when is she going to show up and save this movie from being a complete piece of trash? And then she shows up. And, like, you know, I like the free-flowing sexuality feeling in this movie. You know, like, movies nowadays, they're the exact opposite of this. You know, movies nowadays, they can't have any of this type of stuff. And if they do, they're called ist, and they're called this, and they're called that. And so they're the exact opposite, and you know, you got to cover it all up, and it's ridiculous, it's terrible. This movie is opposite, and so I appreciate that aspect. I mean, there are some nice shots. But if that's all the movie has to offer, one has to wonder, is the movie worth it in the first place? Because we see these shots of her, she's bouncing up and down on a trampoline, pretty much her entire screen time at first. She's just like boing, 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 boing on this trampoline. And I was like, what the fuck is this movie? Like, what is this? Like, this has to be a dream of a movie. It cannot be a real movie. And she keeps on bouncing and bouncing, and we learn that's Malibu. That's Malibu right there. It's Malibu. And what do you know? Malibu Barbie was completely based, not only... See, I originally thought that the Barbie was based just off of her as a person in real life, like not a character. But Malibu Barbie is based on this character in this movie. This random, crazy 1960s movie had more of an impact on pop culture than the majority of movies that came out that same year, because they had to make a Barbie based off of this character. And I got to admit, why? Like, the character she did the best job that she could given the terrible material. But the material, it didn't really give her much of a character at all. I mean, her character was, I'm a skydiver girl, I'm nice, I like to snack on things, including you know what, and I like to watch TV until it turns off automatically at midnight or whatever, and then that's really about it. Like, her character is very one-dimensional, just like all the other characters in this movie. Even though she does a really good job acting, the character, I just can't see, like, I mean, she did deserve a Barbie, like, personally. Like, I think if you just said, like, let's base a Barbie off of an actress from that time period, yes, she deserved to have a Barbie. But in terms of the character, in terms of Malibu from Don't Make Waves, I just have no idea why they were like, this character is really something. She is really, really like, wow. I mean, because that's what happened. Somebody had to have seen this movie and said, wow, Malibu Barbie, or Malibu from Don't Make Waves, wow. Like, and it's like, why? Like, how could you say, like, I know, like, the shots were pretty nice for bouncing on a trampoline. She's in a bikini practically the whole movie. Like, I know all that stuff's great, but what could make you say wow about this character? Specifically the character, not the person, the character. In fact, at a certain point, she kind of, I don't want to say, I won't say that actually, because they gave pretty good reasoning. And let me explain. So, stuff happens, and the main character, he's trying to sell a pool to this guy, and there are a couple of funny slapstick moments, like a couple, but most of the attempts at humor in this movie were really quite bad, and they were quite flat. They just fell completely flat. And there was like a funny joke where there was this bodybuilder, and he's talking about like how sex weakens the body, and he's like cracking this guy's back, and it's just so homoerotic. It's hilarious. Like he's like pulling up his elbows and going like, and the guy's back is cracking. It's just hilarious. He's talking about this stuff, and that was a funny moment. And then there's a funny moment where the main guy, Carlo, he's trying to sell a pool to this guy who has this cliff house. It's like one of those beach houses on a cliff. Probably a house you would never want to get because it's dangerous. Wink, wink. And the guy says like something like, I bought the house for $75,000 and I lent $100,000 from the bank, so I'm giving you $12,000 for fun. Like, you guys see like how bizarre this movie is? Like, this guy, I guess he was selling his house, this beachside house. And so he gives the main character his house, his car, a brand new black car. He gives him this area for a pool. It was originally supposed to be a bomb shelter, and he says, like, I built the bomb shelter in the Eisenhower administration. I stopped building it in the Kennedy administration. And then I thought it should be bigger in the next administration. Like, that was a funny joke. And then the whole thing with, oh, I purchased it for 75, the bank gave me 100,000, so I'm giving you 12. And it's like, okay, like, I didn't understand this movie. Like, could anyone else understand this movie? Like, could anyone else understand what's going on? Because I really don't. Like, this is like one of those, remember those things called, like, color the dots together, connect the dots, where you color the dots together in different colors. This movie is like, what if somebody made, like, the most complicated color the dots picture ever? That's what this movie is. And I'm having trouble connecting these dots. Because it's really like, it's like, what happened in this movie? Does anyone know? What was the reason? What was the purpose? What was the emotion? What was the character? What was the story? What was the plot? What was the objective? What was the journey? What was the arc? What was the destination? Like, see, like, I could just go on. So then what happens is the main guy, Carlo, he gets really full of himself. And I guess it's all about how he wants to be in a relationship with these different women. And he's just kind of like a playa. And so he wants to be with this Italian woman who obviously smokes. And then he wants to be with Malibu, even though she's already with Dave Draper, who's playing this character called Harry. And he's like this gigantic, looks like he could play King Kong type of character. And then also he's kind of flirting with the old friend, I guess. I don't know. And so then what he does is basically the second half of the movie is him trying to sleep with Malibu, and he's trying to get, like, scheme to where she'll get with him, and it's a really dirty, evil scheme. So basically, he invites Malibu's boyfriend over to help move in the furniture so that she can see this new place and this new car that he got, and she can be really impressed and really want to be with him. And then, because at the moment she's only living in a van with this bodybuilder guy, she's not living in an actual house, so one could see, like, how she could be really impressed by this place. Even though it's extremely dangerous. Wink, wink. And then he does another scheme where he asks her if she'd like to skydive, because she's a professional skydiver, and he wants her to jump and land in his new pool. And then I don't know what that is. Like I don't know for what purpose. I guess to just show off that it's cool. I don't know. And so they organize that. She jumps, and there actually is a pretty cool sequence. You know, the person who made this movie, he's good at, like, directing action and directing sequences of terror where something like this happens and you're wondering, okay, what's going to happen in these tense situations. And so he actually falls out of the helicopter, and she has to catch him. And then she catches him, and they land in the pool together. And of course, that increases their sexual tension. And, like, is anyone entertained? I'm not. I wasn't. And then after that, he does the ultimate scummy scumbag move. And he gets this professional astrologist, which I do think that, the movie is kind of interesting at a cultural level because it shows Muscle Beach. It doesn't really do a good job of showing it, though, to its fullest extent. Like, the movie Pumping Iron does a better job at showing Muscle Beach than this movie. And then also, you have the rise of popularity of astrologists, and that all happened in this time period. And so there's this guy, and he's really into astrology, but he also, I guess, makes a pool. Because the main guy, he wants to sell him a pool or something. I don't know. I was kind of checked out of this movie, honestly. Like, I was trying so hard to pay attention, figure out what's going on, and I was just sitting there like, can't wait for this to be over. I can't wait for this movie to end. But he makes a different deal, a very evil deal, where the astrologist is bribed to where he will call up the boyfriend of Malibu and tell him that he should not have any more sex with her for the rest of his life because it's going to give him bad luck and bad karma or whatever. And so he believes it, and this creates the ultimate opportunity for Carlo to run onto scene and get, what do they call it? Swoop her off her feet, slip her off her feet or whatever, get her in bed. And he does. He sleeps with Malibu. And I guess, I can't remember if he already slept with the Italian woman. The Italian woman, she's really, really attached to him already. But I don't know if they slept together or not. And so Malibu, they show her character a little bit, like how she is. And she does this weird thing where all the characters have these weird character quirks. And Malibu, she likes to use this weight belt, this belt thing from back then that like shakes your belly around. And so she's using that. And then she likes to snack a lot, and so she gets a snack, and she's watching television for hours. And she watches it all the way until it turns off, back when they didn't have 24-hour TV. And she's that much like into watching television. That's pretty much all we get to know about her character, Pretty nice, I guess. If you're into that sort of character quirks. I don't know. I really don't know with this movie. And then after that, what happened after that? All the people in the movie, all the main characters, through antics, they all show up at the beachside house together on the cliff. And then that's when shit gets real. And this is actually when I think the movie reaches its peak in terms of being entertaining. I told you guys the director is good at directing action. They have this whole part where his pool cracks open and it all collapses and falls off the cliff. And then the house starts cracking and starts to, weaken from its structure, and it's going to fall down and off the cliff with all these people in it. And this is my favorite part of the movie, because it's the only part where it feels like something interesting is happening. And by the way, I really felt bad for Harry, the boyfriend of Malibu, because I felt like Harry was the best actor in the movie. Like, it would be him, and then Malibu, and then the Italian girl, and then everyone else. It's just kind of meh. But I thought, even though that guy, he's obviously just a bodybuilder, he's not really an actor. I thought he did a really good job. He really played this character well and made you sympathize with him and be upset that his girl was being stolen from him. And the house is collapsing and falling off this cliff. And that is when the main character, Malibu, she is like, I'm really hungry. I want a snack. And she walks over to this refrigerator and she turns on the refrigerator, even though the house is like tipped over. And she gets a celery stick out and she's eating celery like a snack in the middle of this disastrous situation where they could die. And it's just really bizarre. And then they're still falling, and they're gonna fall. They've called for help, but all of a sudden, the weirdest thing in the movie happens. The bodybuilder guy, Harry, he comes onto scene. He climbs into the house that's on its side like he's Tarzan, and he's got this rope around his shoulder. And he's like, what's going on here? You guys okay? I heard on the news what was going on, and so I just came over to check if you guys are okay. And it's like, it's just like this guy is so alpha that he just managed to like climb into this fucking house that's about to fall off a cliff, and it's just so ridiculous. And then he's like, Carlo, I heard what you did with the astrologist. And it's really hilarious, this whole encounter, because he's like taking off his first shirt, and then he takes off his second shirt, and you think, oh shit, he's going to start beating the main character up, and he's going to make him pay for trying to steal his girlfriend. And instead, he's just like, why did you do that, man? And he sits down with his undershirt, and he's like squeezing the sweat out of it, and he's like, I just gotta say, I really love Malibu, and I want her to be with me. And he's just such a nice guy that he's not gonna physically harm the main character, even though he did such an evil, sinister thing. I just thought that was so hilarious. And then finally, they say that they're going to help them by the morning. The authorities, they will help them as soon as the sun comes up, which I don't know. I didn't understand that. That was kind of weird. Like, they said specifically, like, they said that they'll be able to help you once the sun comes up. And it's like, what does that have to do with anything? Is it some kind of, like, ritual thing? I don't know. So the sun comes up, and they pull the house down, and it falls over on the beach, and it's right side up. And basically the point is all the characters kind of resolve their romantic situations. So the Italian girl, she gets with Carlo, the main guy, forever. And then the other guy, who was like a bigamist, or he was cheating, he just stays with his wife. And then Malibu gets back with her boyfriend, and everything is, peaches and cream. And that's the ending of this movie. And then, of course, they play Don't Make Waves, Don't Make Waves. And I guess the point was that this guy, he made waves by making all these terrible decisions and buying this, accepting this house, this dangerous house, and then manipulating and making it so that he got with that girl in a sinister, unnatural way. And I guess the point was that, karma always comes back to get these characters, I guess. But I don't know, I really don't know. It was so... it just seemed like this can't be all that there is to this movie, there has to be something else here to this movie. It can't just be oh, there's a guy and he does all this because all the stuff that he does that's bad is really the second half of the movie. The first half of the movie is kind of like him just dealing with the insurance thing with his car and then getting into a relationship with these girls. But then the second half is when he makes waves, quote unquote. So I don't know about this movie. It was really just kind of there. It was, in terms of food, it really was like a celery stick of a movie. I hate to just give it this rating, this simple rating, a celery stick, but I swear to you guys that watching this movie for an hour and 30 minutes was the equivalent of just eating a celery stick out of the refrigerator. I don't think that I'll be talking about this movie very much unless it has to do with this topic of this person. I don't really think that I'll be rewatching this movie in the future. But I will tell you this. See, I'm not feeling well today, unfortunately. And so I was not really able to enjoy the movie. Or just even I don't know, the whole time watching the movie, I was just kind of ugh, just feeling off. And so I will actually be having to rewatch this movie again just so that I can analyze it for the stuff on the inside, the deeper meanings, the hidden meanings to do with Malibu, quote unquote. So I will be doing that Saturday, which is April 15th. And I'll tell you guys why I'm reviewing it on Saturday, because it has a special meaning. And originally I was going to just review the movie and analyze it all on that Saturday. But then today I decided, what the heck. So, happy Easter. Please like this video, comment, tell me what you think of this movie, this disaster of a movie, and then please subscribe if you'd like to see more honest reviews on this channel. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon.